Right, okay. So the final thing that we didn't get around to last weekend was doing upper and lower bounds in context. Now, what they will tend to do in these sorts of exam questions, and they'll come round about towards the middle to end of your paper. So you're looking at probably a grade 6 to a grade 7 sort of area. Sometimes they can ask it a little bit more detail, which is grade 8. But generally they'll look like this. So they'll say M equals 1 over P over S. Work out the upper or the lower bound for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out both. Now it says that P is 5.37 to 2 decimal places, S is 2.9 to 1 decimal place. So this will be a 3 or a 4 mark question, and the first thing that you need to do is work out the upper and lower bounds for 5.37. So just like I said last time, you put 5.37 in the middle. So this is 2 decimal places. The next number that's above, which is 2 decimal places, is 5.38. And the one below is 5.36. So the upper bound to 5.37 is 5.375. The lower bound is 5.365. And we're going to be using these things here. And as soon as you put either this one or this one down, you've shown that you understand something to do with bounds, so you're going to get your first mark. The next one, S, is 2.9 to 1 decimal place. So again, if we do the pitchfork, so if we do the pitchfork for S over here, you put the 2.9 in the middle, that's to 1 decimal place. So the number below, which is to 1 decimal place, would be 2.8. The one above is 3.0, which is 3. So then you've got to work out the upper and lower bound for 2.9. So that's going to be 2.85 and 2.95. Now you don't get extra marks for this, but again, either this one, this one, this one, or this one, knowing that how to do the upper or lower bound will get you the first mark. Okay, so let's consider the upper bound for M. Now you're told that M equals 1 divided by P over S. Now you want to make M as big as possible. Now if you're going to make M as big as possible, you're going to do 1 divided by something. Now imagine you've got a choice of numbers. You've got the choice of numbers 2 or 3. Which would give you the highest value? Well, 1 divided by 2 would give you 0.5. If you did 1 divided by 3, obviously if you divide it into 3 chunks, it's going to be smaller. So 1 divided by 3 would be smaller. So if ever you've got to find the upper bound in this case, you want to make the bottom thing as small as possible. We try it with a different number to show again. If I've got 100, so I've got a choice of what the bottom number will be. So I can choose maybe 5 or 10. If I do 5, so if I do a smaller number, 100 divided by 5 is 20. So 100 divided by 5 equals 20. Or if I choose the bigger number, 10, 100 divided by 10 is going to be 10. So clearly 100 divided by 5 gives us a bigger answer. So my point in sort of saying all of this is what we need to do is when we've got M equals 1 divided by something, we want to make the bottom, if we want to make it as big as possible, we need to make the bottom as small as possible. And that takes a little bit of getting your head around. So we've got M, which is 1 over. Now I want to make the bottom as small as possible. So the smallest that P can be is 5.365. And that's times by S. Now the smallest S can be is 2.85. So what you then do is you do that on your calculator. Now remember, to do this on your calculator, you've got to use the fraction button. So that's going to be the fraction button, which looks like this. Then on the top you put 1, on the bottom you put 5.365 times by 2.85. And then what you're going to do is going to write out all the decimal places. So the upper bound equals 0.0654011 5433. Now, if you had to work out the lower bound, let's do the lower bound over here. So the lower bound means you've got to make it as small as possible. So if m equals 1 divided by something times something, to make this thing as small as possible, so the lower bound means as small as it could possibly be, I want to do 1 divided by something big, or the biggest it can be. Now the biggest the bottom can be is p times s, so the biggest p can be is 5.375 times by the biggest that s can be, which is 2.95. So if we do that, 1 divided by 5.375 times by 2.95. And if you're doing 1 divided by, make sure you put the bottom in brackets. Otherwise what's going to happen is it's going to do 1 divided by 5.375, whatever that answer is, times by 2.95. So make sure when you do 1 divided by, the bottom bit here all goes into a bracket. And if you do that, you get 0.0630666141. Now you should have a couple of questions from the papers, from the notes from last week. So have a go at those and see how you get on. If you need any more help, just give us a shout.